For years, I've been hearing about this store called Colonial Homestead. If you live in Ohio, it's kind of legendary. It's supposed to be huge and filled with thousands of antique woodworking tools, workbenches, and tool chests. But the owner is a Mennonite, and he won't use a computer or even let himself be photographed. The store has no internet presence. You just have to go there. Cleveland is a big city with a lot of suburbs and big towns around it. So it catches you a little bit by surprise when you suddenly break out and you're just in the country. And I grew up in a small town, but this is Amish country. It's a different world. People out here are driving around in buggies and plowing the fields with horses. I've lived in northern Ohio for almost a decade, but I'm still not used to the time warp when I get out of the city. In rural Ohio, people are living day to day with the kind of old, handmade furniture that I love. The things I'm looking for are out here, and I've got nothing else to do today. Even just pulling up to Colonial Homestead is exciting. They've got piles of timbers already cut with mortise and tenon joinery, and they've got shave horses and traditional saw benches just sitting out in the snow. We haven't even walked through the front door yet, and I already see 5 things that I need to stop and look at. And once you do walk through the door, it's paradise. I've been in this business long enough to get a little cynical. I've seen all the vintage tools, all the fancy furniture, but Colonial Homestead has my jaw on the floor. I've never seen so many tools in one place. The store is like an onion. Every time you peel back a layer, there's just more underneath. They've got machinist's tools, new tools from boutique makers, bench planes ready for restoration, marking gauges and molding planes, a huge selection of blacksmith's tools, a great workshop where they make chairs and other furniture, complete Windsor chairs and kits that you can build yourself, a whole leatherworking section, more saws than you will ever need, a whole pile of froes, draw knives and spoke shaves, and you know what? I'm getting tired just trying to keep track of all of it. The store is owned by Dan Raber, and his religious beliefs mean that he won't appear on camera, but you might hear his voice later. Dan was incredibly gracious in showing us around the store and taking time to explain things that I've never seen before. This treadle lathe is the finest I've ever seen. It's precisely constructed, and every piece is decorated with finely executed moldings and graceful details. The tool rest has an ingenious design for adjusting the height. It's quick to move and pretty easy to build. And this second tool rest is so much like a modern one, it's kind of eerie. The shape, the adjustment, and the way that it attaches to the bed are so similar to lathes being produced right now. The treadle action is smooth, and it better be. This is Dan's everyday lathe. The design even incorporates an old grindstone as a flywheel, so you can store more energy from your pedaling. Dan also lets people work on projects in the store, and you can meet some interesting folks this way.
This is one from Adam Ashworth over in the UK. At Spoonfest, he had a class on forging blades that I took. So I forged the blade with him, then made the handle.
That's fantastic. It's a good shape for the knife, not too big.
Yeah, it's a little longer than most, but I like that for bigger spoons.
And I got in on the action too. I made the mistake of mentioning that I like the Stanley 151 spoke shave. And Dan, who is not short of opinions, immediately told me that 151s are garbage. He stuck this straight-handled spoke shave in my hands, plopped me down at one of his shave horses, and insisted I try it out. I don't know if I'm ready to give up my 151, but it was amazing being at a store where someone could recommend a tool to me and then let me try it out in a real woodworking environment. You might not have a place like Colonial Homestead in your town, But there's a place online where you can find quality vintage tools at great prices. Just go to tooltrader.net and you can browse hundreds of tools being sold by other woodworkers. There are rare collectibles, beautiful custom-made tools, and more importantly, everyday user tools at affordable prices. And you can save $5 off your first purchase with the code STARTNOW. We'll put a link in the description. And of course, all the tools are great, but maybe you want to see real vintage workbenches, and Dan has got them. This classic joiner's bench is straight out of George Ellis's book, Modern Practical Joinery. It's even got the raked legs. It also has a big drawer right in the middle of the apron. This feature used to be common in English-style joiner's benches, and the benefits are obvious. All the chisels and other little tools that you would keep in a chest or on a rack, you just keep in a drawer, and it's already right where you're standing. The planing stop is just attached to a piece of round dowel, and the legs are secured to the apron with these pieces of blocking to keep them from moving back and forth. The vise doesn't move, but it's a straightforward leg vise at a bit of an angle. I'm sure it worked fine back in the day. And underneath, we can see simple cross bracing, stabilizing the thin plank top, and diagonal braces keeping the legs straight. The whole thing reminds me of my English joiner's bench, which is kind of crazy because I built that bench before I had ever seen one of these in person. I had only seen pictures and read about them in books, but this bench is incredibly similar. If you'd like to build one of these benches out of cheap construction lumber, we've got a video and plans, and we'll put a link in the description. You'll have to add your own drawer if you want one. I thought that was the only joiner's bench in the shop, but I was walking around and turned a corner, and you know what? Here's another one. It's similar to the first one, but with a much thicker top and straight legs. Same super basic leg vise. And whoever built this one took drawers to a whole new level. There's two drawers built into this far end where they don't get in the way, and they slide very smoothly. Then there's a third drawer at the top of the apron, just nailed, rabbited construction, no time for dovetails here. And there's a fourth drawer at the bottom of the apron. If the wood looks strange, it's because it's been grain painted, which used to be a common way of making cheaper furniture look fancy. The whole bench is obviously recycled wood, and this drawer front was a piece of furniture in its past life. The maker left this drawer sticking out while all the other ones are carefully set flush with the apron, and this detail confused me for a minute. But then I realized that this drawer front was also a stock support. It's right at the same level as the vise screw, and it's in the perfect position to hold the ends of long boards. And that's probably why there are no peg holes in the apron. The carpenter didn't need them. And speaking of benches, I've saved the best for last, and it's an amazing find. Wait, hold on. Let me get a full look, because this looks to me very much like a Chris Schwarz low Roman workbench from the book Ingenious Mechanics.
It is that one.
It's from the book? This is the bench from the book Ingenious Mechanics.
Invaders did get it.
What's that now?
And the German invaders did get hold of it.
Right, this is the one that went down the well.
Right, but in his book he also says that hopefully the new one will have won't get treated the same way as the original did.
So this one didn't get hidden down a well from
No, but
the invaders.
It did get snagged by the German invaders, Kevin and I.
Fair enough. Well,
German.
I am also a German invader, so I guess I'm continuing that tradition. If you've watched my channel for a while, you know I'm really interested in low workbenches. And some of my most successful early videos featured low benches from Chris Schwarz's excellent book, Ingenious Mechanics. I was excited to see a low Roman bench in person, but this is one of the actual benches featured in the book, built by Chris himself. Apparently, Chris got a bit overwhelmed by all the stuff cluttering up his shop, and he just gave it away to Dan. It's not for sale. I asked. Now that I've been here, I can't believe I put it off for so long. Not only is Colonial Homestead an amazing store filled with high-quality vintage tools, it's also a place where real hand-tool woodworking is happening every day. Dan is a wealth of knowledge on the techniques and traditions of hand-built furniture, timber framing, and green woodworking, and he's perfectly happy to spend hours explaining things to customers and even letting them try out tools. Rob and I were there for hours, and we could have stayed longer. But there's no need for me to wear out my welcome. I'll be back, probably pretty soon.